Hey there, Business Freedom Podcast listeners. Lars Hedenborg here. Another exciting episode. Today, I am beyond honored to have our guest, Chris Heller with Mellow Home, with us to share the good, the bad, the ugly about his business growth journey. Chris, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Always like to share and learn.
Yeah, so I kind of teed it off a little bit. I gave you a hint for what's coming, and I've got to ask you because I ask everyone on the show: are you prepared to share the good, the bad, and the ugly about your business growth journey?
Absolutely. It's funny. For years, I still have my team, and for years, I always told clients, I'm always going to give you the straight scoop, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it's okay with you. So I've used that line for 25 years or more.
Awesome. Well, I love it. So why don't you start off kind of just with like a little bit of, kind of just give us a little bit of background about you personally. Our listeners like to kind of get a context of who they're talking to. Maybe give us like the couple minute resume, where you started building your business, what you're doing now.
Okay. There's a lot of years, so I'll try to keep it to a couple of minutes. I'll skip a few decades. I got my license when I was 20 years old. It was 1983. Now you know how old I am. And it was for a summer job selling timeshares in California. And I met a real estate broker, and for 3 years, he was pretty consistent in recruiting me, telling me, you need to be in real estate, you need to come work for me. He'd send me notes, he'd call me every time I saw him, he'd bring it up. And one day he caught me at a weak moment, and that was in end of 1988, became an agent, and was Rookie of the Year in 1989, sold 27 homes, and over 50 by my third year, and then over 100 by my fourth or fifth year. And I hired an assistant at the end of my first year in 1989, and that was sort of unheard of. It wasn't that I had the vision of building a team. That wasn't a concept that really existed. I just knew that the only way I could sell more homes is if I had people doing some of the things that took a lot of my time and the things I didn't like doing. So the team just evolved from there. That team is still in existence. This is our 30th year in San Diego. So that for first 16 years, I was at Prudential California Realty. 2004, joined Keller Williams. Launched a market center in 2006, and I think in 2009, I was the #1 Keller Williams agent in the world. Thanks to the #1 agent at the time who left the company, and I was #2. So by default, I became #1. So in 2010, I went to work at Keller Williams Realty International to lead the growth of Keller Williams outside of North America. I was the president of Keller Williams Worldwide, a sister company to KWRI. And we started launching Keller Williams all over the globe, and that was a lot of fun. In 2015, January 2015, I became the CEO of Keller Williams, and then left in April of last year, April 2017. And then February of this year, I did something I never thought about doing or thought I would be doing, that's join a mortgage company. Loan Depot, the owner of Loan Depot, Anthony Shea, I'd met him last year, and we talked and met several times, and I got excited about what he was doing, and I think he got excited about what we could do, and so he created a sister company called Mellow Home. And Mellow Home, in its current iteration, is connecting all the Loan Depot customers that are looking to buy a home, and we have thousands of them every month, that don't have real estate agents, and we're connecting them with real estate agents. We built a real estate agent referral network, and agents join the referral network. There's no cost. There are qualifications, production qualifications, and then to stay in it, there's service level qualifications. But it's a great model. It's a great way for us to help agents build their business, and then we have a lot of other things in the plans for Mellow Home as we continue to grow.
Yeah,
I was after the short, quick version.
That's awesome. It's funny, I sold. It was 20 years later. Not to make you feel Well, my first year was 27 homes as well, and I hired my first assistant like less than 12 months getting into the business.
Yeah,
I was like, there's so much stuff that you got to do as an agent that's just not time, it's
yeah.
not productive.
So if you can imagine 20 years before that, I was in an office of, I don't know, there's probably 70 agents. So it's a pretty good sized office. And I was like one of the youngest people in the office at that time. And when I hired an assistant, there was like an uproar. Agents going, who do you think you are? Who do you think you're the president? You're hiring an assistant, And I would look at them and go, well, what are you doing? You're stuffing envelopes for 5 hours a day. Yeah, I want to sell more houses. So yes, I hired someone. So by time you hired one, you probably didn't get ridiculed and made fun of.
Yeah, and what's funny is that I heard a statistic, and I mean like 87.2% of statistics are made up, but 85% of real estate agents don't even have an assistant. Like just think about like the impact of not having someone to run your stuff for you. It's just crazy. Let me ask you a question. And this is just an awesome opportunity. I don't think on the podcast before we've had someone that has had such a diverse sort of experience set in terms of being in the trenches as a solo agent, scaling a team, totally leveraged to the point where it's running 30 years later with you out of it, being able to get into a big box brokerage, be next to a smart guy in our industry, Gary, and then now decide to kind of just do something different that is, as a result of what you're seeing in the industry. Given that, like, what are you seeing right now in the industry that if you were where you were in starting your business and wanting to scale a team, what advice would you give an agent looking to scale a real estate team today?
Yeah, so that's a really good question because there is a lot of change happening, right? And it's happening on a lot of levels, but I sort of put it into three different buckets. There's at the agent level, at the at the brokerage level, and then at the consumer level. And the changes are happening fast, and I think so fast that most people can't even see it, don't even realize how fast things are changing. And at the same time, there's certain things that we look at that say, well, they haven't the same way it was 30 years ago. And so, and I think that causes people to fall under the illusion that things aren't changing, but they are. Consumer behavior is changing. And as a consumer, we all have changed a lot. We all have expectations now on how things should go and how fast they should go and how quickly and easily they should be and how transparent and how predictable. And sort of like the Amazon effect that we've all grown accustomed to. And that's bleeding over into every parts of our lives, right? So we have that expectation. If we're ordering food to go from a restaurant and we go onto their website, we have an expectation of what that experience should be like. If we're buying a car or getting our car serviced or buying clothes or shopping, whatever it is, our expectations have changed. And that means for buyers and sellers, their expectations have changed. And doing what we've always done as agents isn't going to work anymore. In fact, there's billions of dollars are pouring into our industry because people that have been buyers and sellers go, wait, there's got to be a better way to do this. My experience needs to be better than it was when I bought my house or when I sold my house or when I financed my house. So as agents, one of the things that I would say we absolutely have to do is to provide an experience that's consistent with or exceeds what our expectations are as consumers. The things that we did and I'll say got away with doing or the way we acted in the past won't cut it anymore. It doesn't mean that we're all going to become technology companies or create technology that provides that experience, but the things that consumers want, the speed, the certainty, the transparency, we can provide that with or without technology. But it means that we have to be able to respond to people instantly. Their questions have to be answered, instantaneously. We need to be better at And good agents have always done this. So for a lot of the people watching or listening, they go, well, that's easy, I do that. I would assert we all could do it at a higher level, but a lot of good agents do that. But we have to be able to anticipate what someone wants, what they're worried about, what they're concerned about, what they're thinking about, and then provide it before they have to ask for it. As buyers and sellers, we know what they're thinking, right? We know what their concerns are. We know what their questions are going to be. We know what they're going to be wondering. And waiting for them to come to us with those questions versus us being proactive and addressing those things before they become things is really, really critical. So that was sort of a long answer to your.
No, that's good, and I want to hear on the other two as well, because I think that's the opportunity here with a guy like you, is for us to really get a lesson on what you've seen and what you see. So that's the consumer. Now, brokerage and agent. So if you can, just let's continue the train here. What are you seeing at the brokerage level?
So at the brokerage level, and this isn't going to be a news flash to anyone, there's a tremendous amount of new models that are hitting the market. And I'm pretty good at keeping up on what's happening, and I still am hearing of new ones almost on a daily basis. And we could put them into, again, to different buckets or classifying, but they all have different little nuances and they're all different. So there's this huge amount of fragmentation that's happening now, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. As agents, it gives us more options. Right? We have a lot more options than we did 5 years ago or 10 years ago or longer. So, and that'll continue, and we'll see fragmentation happen until there's some clear-cut winners in what the model of the future is going to look like. And I don't think anyone knows what that looks like. There's a lot of people that are betting on the iBuyer type models and the open doors and those for becoming the model of the future, and it may very well be one of the dominant ones. So at the brokerage level, there's a lot of fragmentation. There's a lot of new models, a lot of new options. Agents are, I think, more than ever, and this is just, I have nothing to back this up other than just my perception of what I see and hear. Like, agents more than ever are questioning, are they in the right place? Maybe this is a better place for me. Maybe what I've been doing or who I've been with for all these years, there's a better way or better system for me to be in. And I think that's going to continue for a while. On the at the agent level, I think the agents are. Well, let me say one other thing about the brokerage level. I think this is. I think we're going into a time where it's going to be more challenging to be a broker than ever before, and to have a brokerage. Partly because of the new models and the competition, but partly because what we're seeing, a common theme with technology and the digital age that we are clearly have been in and will continue to get deeper and deeper into. There is and will be a compression of margins, and for a lot of businesses we see that happening. So for brokerages, they're going to, and it's been tough for brokerages for a while to have a real profitable business. I know I've owned them, you've owned them. As an agent, it's a lot easier for us to be profitable than it is for us as a broker or owning a brokerage. And so at the brokerage level, that means that either we'll see fewer of them or we'll see them start to change their models. And we'll start to see them do things to, and they've always done, most of them have always done things to add other revenue sources. I think we'll see that continue to happen at even a bigger pace, and see more convergence of companies offering different services other than just the real estate brokerage service. We're seeing that at company levels, right? We're seeing that. Look, I'm at a mortgage company that's now offering real estate services. We know there's real estate companies that are offering mortgage services, and those lines will continue to get blurred. And I think we'll eventually get to a point where there's not a whole lot of differentiation between a lot of different types of companies.
Yeah, that's awesome.
At the agent level, it's on a day-to-day basis, our job hasn't changed that much. Again, the level of service that we need to be providing and the type of experience that we need to provide is changing. But it still comes down to, we're dealing with a transaction that's a very large emotional transaction for most people, and that human interaction is still important in large emotional transactions. And I don't see that changing, anytime in the near future.
Yeah, awesome. What maybe you're even experiencing something like this now as you're getting into building a new business again. Go back to the mindset that you had when you were kind of taking, I mean, then it was trailblazing. Now teams are, an actual thing. The mindset required to make the shift from production to leverage through an admin to leverage through other salespeople. What advice from a mindset perspective would you give? And I don't know if there was something in your personal life at that time, young kids, or something that's what drove me to do it. I'm like, this sucks. Like, I can't spend 30 hours a week doing admin work. But what advice would you give an agent that's looking to make the shift and bring leverage, whether it's marketing, technology, or people, into their life? How would you tell them to do it?
About that, yeah. So, and actually, Lars, it goes back to the last topic too. One of the changes that we see at the agent level is there are more teams, and there are more agents joining teams. I mean, it's becoming more common for someone getting into the business to now join a team that is to go out on their own initially. And that means that we're going to see more teams and more people on teams. And that trend's been happening for a while, and it's going to continue on at even a faster pace. I think from a mindset standpoint, I think part of it is out of sheer necessity. I don't believe an individual agent, unless they're going to really limit the amount of business they do, can provide the level of service that we as consumers want now. If you think about, and this has happened in other industries, right? I mean, you think about the medical industry. Way back when, the doctor would make house calls, right? And would go see the patient and take care of him. Then they realized that they couldn't help as many people, so they had offices. And then they realized they need to have someone there to help them. So, nurses and receptionists and insurance billers and lab techs and x-ray techs and all those things. It's not because the doctor didn't want to work. He wanted to be able to help more people. And so the mindset for me was always, I want to be able to help more people buy and sell homes. The only way I can do that is if I'm not doing the things that aren't, directly relating to that. I also had pretty early on sort of drilled into my head that I needed to be spending the majority of my time on revenue generating activities. And that meant that those other activities had to be done by someone else. So out of necessity, again, I had to have other people do those so I could spend my time on revenue generating activities. I think the other mindset issues that agents have, or that they need to have, or they struggle with if they're doing this is, I like things done right. I want them done perfect, like most people. But I don't have the need to do it myself. In fact, my preference is not to do it myself. So a lot of agents struggle with that. And I think the mindset they need to have is that there are people that can do parts of the job as good or better than you. And your job is to find them. And I think it's also part, I don't know if I read this, or someone told me this. I think I might have read this in a book a long time ago. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point is, there's certain things that we do that has to be perfect, right? for the contract has to be perfect. Otherwise, someone's going to get hurt either financially or legally. There's a lot of things that we do in our business that if it gets done at 90% or 95% as good as you or I could do it, that's still okay. And it doesn't impact our business and doesn't impact our clients. And knowing that, I think makes it easier for agents to let go of some things and to delegate that. The other thing is it's a lot easier to delegate and to leverage if you have really good people. If you don't, it's scary. And it usually ends bad. If you have really good people, it's the opposite. It's freeing. It's empowering. And so, one of the keys is the quality of the people that you have around you that allows you to be okay with delegating and using leverage to do more.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's transition to something that I don't think is talked about a lot in real estate in particular. There's a lot of big egos and guys and gals building big teams and touting the top line numbers. I don't ever hear them really sharing like the struggles or the failures.
Right.
What's like maybe one thing personally you look back over your business growth career, your journey, and like just a failure that you wouldn't want someone coming behind you to make? Like what lessons can we learn from a failure that you've made or you see people that are growing teams making these days that you can maybe help them avoid?
I don't know where to start. The list of failures that I have is so long that it would take a lifetime to go through them. I don't know that there was a day that didn't go by where I didn't fail at something. And sometimes they were little and sometimes they were big. I would say early in my career, a common theme, a common point of failure was my inability to lead and manage people. And part of it was my mindset, because for a lot of years, I didn't believe I needed to know how to do that, that everyone should be like me and driven and focused and, do a great job. And I can't understand why they wouldn't be doing that and being that way. And why do they need to be told they're doing a good job and those type of things. So early on is my either lack of business maturity or lack of awareness of leading and managing and how to do that effectively. I think also along those lines were a lot of failures around not understanding at the level I do now, different behavioral styles and different personality styles and how to communicate effectively with different types and putting people in the right place and so that they are in a position where they can win. Other failures, I've had them all. I mean, I really have. I mean, from going to the wrong house to meet with the wrong people to, leaving stuff out of a contract and having to buy a refrigerator for someone, or all those things that happen. One of the things I think I did well is learn from every one of those mistakes and to ensure that I didn't make it a second time. And whether that was a client that was unhappy with something we did or didn't do, and to say, okay, I never want to deal with that again. What do I need to do to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah, and it could be. I mean, just hearing you talk, just being willing and not being afraid of failing. I mean, it's sort of it's kind of overused, right? But failing fast, I mean, I see the guys that are doing big things in the world are failing miserably, but they're just not willing to stay down. They get back up and, as long as you're not making bets that'll take your whole family out, you get another day.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are attracted to real estate because, I mean, not a lot of people, and I think it's changing, but not everyone that's attracted to real estate, they're coming at it like, this is my chosen career. I'm
Right.
going to crush this career because I'm well suited for it. And so I think as a result of that, they don't have experience leading and managing people, and they have insecurities around it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge lesson right there, is that, you need to be willing to fail, and, you're not going to, nothing bad's going to happen to you if you make a bad hire. You're going to learn from it and you're going to move on.
Yeah. I mean, there's, as we all fail all the time, as parents, as, siblings, as kids, as business people, and, and to pretend that we don't or to not learn from it is a real wasted opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, one thing I've struggled with, and I've got an 8 and a 10-year-old and a wife that I'd love to keep happy. I struggle with, and I see this in a lot of business builders, enjoying the ride. We're constantly striving for something different than what's our current situation. Is there any advice you can give to the listeners around, any practices, daily or weekly or annual practices, to make sure you actually enjoy the ride?
Yeah. So it's funny, as I think of this question, that is, at times that's been a complete challenge of mine. Um, and I probably was a bad example of that. So I'll share some of what I do now and some of the things I do now, because it's something I have to consciously work at. My default setting is, I'm in battle mode, every day, going to war to slay the dragons I need to slay, to accomplish the things I want to accomplish, and that's it. Now, fortunately, I like what I do, so I get enjoyment out of it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. But I think it's important, and this is what I often catch myself thinking about, and I've gotten a lot better over the years, is to understand that in the big picture, very little of this matters at all, right? I don't know, the way I think about it is, it's just a game. It's a game we're playing. It's a game we decide to play. And if we're going to play it, we might as well have fun doing it. And at the same time, keep it in perspective that, it's, when I'm gone, how many houses I sold, or how many podcasts I was on, or no one's going to care. And within a few months of me being gone, no one's going to remember. And, so then what does matter? What does matter is, I have 4 kids. You mentioned your 2. And, how I can teach them, how I can prepare them, how they can learn from what I've done good and what I haven't done good, is the only thing that's going to be here, hopefully, after I'm gone. And same with the other people that I interact with. So the things I do to keep that in perspective is, I make sure that I have time for me every day. And for me, that usually revolves around exercise, because there's other benefits for me for that. But whether it's riding my bike after work, or going for a long walk, or whatever it is, where it's just me and my thoughts, helps me keep that in perspective. And then I'm really fortunate that my wife is a great partner, and if I ever lose track, she's quick to remind me that things are good.
Yeah, that's awesome. There was a guy that did a sermon. And the context of it was, the title was 100 years. And, a lot of times we make decisions, to eat a donut, it's for like, 100 seconds. That decision was for 100 seconds, not for next week.
Yeah.
And like really looking at the where you're spending your time and where you're giving your energy and when your stress and anxiety is coming from with respect to like 100 years from now. And it's in the context of faith, but I think it still works even if you don't have a bigger purpose for living. Like, how can I impact this world where something's going to last beyond me? And your example is your children. Ministering to your children is like, that has a chance, that has a generational impact. And I think a lot of people and agents, they're Netflix, right? There's $100 million productions that you can hardly not enjoy. And there's 1,000 of them that you have to choose from on Netflix. And none of that is going to live beyond the 2 hours you take to binge watch a couple episodes. So that's really powerful what you just shared.
Thank you. Yeah, and we have that opportunity, obviously, with everyone we deal with, right? So, making sure everyone we deal with, we leave them better off, after we dealt with them than they were before.
Yeah, that's awesome. What anything keep you up at night now when it comes to your business?
So I get up really early and I work really hard, so I fall asleep like that. So but there have been times where things have kept me up. But I understand the question. So if I'll answer that about my real estate business, my real estate team. So, I want to, and I just made a change on my team and hired a new managing partner who's basically the person that runs the team. And that just happened in the last few weeks. And so, what I spend time thinking about now is, how can I best support him? Am I giving him all the information he needs to succeed at a high level? And, so those type of things. Are we taking care of the clients the way we should be? All the typical stuff we think about as agents. I don't spend, as far as the industry goes and the changes and disruption and all those things, I know that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what our business looks like could be unrecognizable. And I think it will look a lot different. And some of the things we do will be different. Doesn't mean we won't be doing them. We'll be doing them differently, or there'll be different things we're doing. So I don't try to play all that out or figure out what that's going to look like. I just try to pay attention to what's happening so that I can stay at or ahead of the curve or ahead of the wave and make sure that we're doing the things we need to do to keep growing and helping our clients. Things that keep me up at night about the brokerage business. It's not so much keeps me up at night. It's just like, it's a sort of interesting, and I'm eager to see how it plays out, is, how consumer behavior will drive changes in our industry. As a seller, if I could sell my house and get top dollar for it and not have to put it on the market and not have to fix it up, and not have to have strangers, traipsing through it, and you can give me an offer that I can say yes to and decide when I'm going to move, sign me up. Why? Who would not want that? Can that model evolve to that level? I don't know. And if it doesn't evolve to that level, it'll still work for a portion of the sellers out there that want or need certainty and are willing to pay a price to not have the hassles and the uncertainty. So that's just more of interested to see how much of the population gets impacted by some of the new models.
Yeah, the pie may be the same size, where we may trade 5 million homes every year for the next 20 years, but it really is going to be interesting to see. Right now, it's like 95% of the pie is available to the traditional model. It's going to be interesting to see if that's going to be 20% 10 years from now. I mean, I'm sort of banking on that.
Yeah.
5 years from now, I think we'll probably still have a good chunk of the pie. At some point, like, you got to make a decision if you're going to be in the business of like we're doing it now, what it's going to look like. And we're talking Ritz-Carlton, we're talking next version Ritz-Carlton, like, that's really cool. Let me ask you, what's the best advice you've ever received about business?
I've received a lot of good advice. I've been fortunate that I've had really good mentors, and I've had some really good opportunities. We were chatting before this. I got to work almost daily with Gary Keller for several years, and now I get to do the same with Anthony Shea, who's legendary in the mortgage business and as a businessman. But back to your question, the greatest business advice. One of my early mentors and coaches used to always say, show up, pay attention, tell the truth, and don't be attached to the outcome. And I think that last piece of not being attached to the outcome, which is the hardest piece to do in the master, but is the most powerful piece, was probably one of the greatest things I learned. And I saw it in practice as an agent, especially early in my career. We all have things happen, right? We have deals that fall out and bad stuff that happens and tough phone calls we have to make. And, my team would come to me and say, such and such deal just fell out. And I'd ask, why? What did we learn? What are we going to do differently? And in my mind, it was next, on to the next one. Didn't mean I didn't care. It didn't mean I didn't feel bad for the client. But I was never that attached that it wrecked me for a week or two. Whereas some agents, they have a deal fall out and they're just crushed. I mean, have you seen Bob? No, I haven't seen him in over 2 weeks. He had that deal fall out and no one's seen him. Has anyone checked on him? We just can't. When we're attached, we don't make good decisions. Our emotions get involved. It affects our health, and doesn't mean we aren't committed. It doesn't mean we aren't committed to doing the best thing and the best job and taking care of our clients. But not being attached was a very good lesson early on for me.
Yeah, that's super powerful. If you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
I've been asked that question before, and I have very few, if any, regrets, because I know at the time I was very likely doing the best I could do, and doesn't mean it was good, but it was the best I could do at that time. And so to go back and say, well, I should have done this or should have done that, or I have regrets about that. But there's a lot of things that I would do differently, with looking back and if I had the ability to go back and do it. I mean, there's almost an endless amount of things, and it's only because I could do them a lot better now, knowing what I know now that I didn't know then. So how I managed and led and treated people, how all the time that I spent giving this business more meaning than it deserved, the impact that had on my kids or my wife or my health or whatever. I remember I was so intense younger in my career that I remember I went to spend a day and shadow this guy and mentor him, and I had done it a couple of times. And on one of the visits, he said, "You got to ease up. Like you never smile. You were like so intense. You're scaring me." And I didn't have that self awareness to know that's how I was or that was acting, but that's how I was, and that that served me well in some areas, but also probably wasted a lot of time and energy too. So I don't know. I could answer that question 1,000 different ways, and
That's good. I mean, it's how old are your children now?
28, 25, 23, and 18.
So if you go back when you had four young children, just thinking in the context of how you've laid out your career, I mean, I think there's a lot of people in real estate that are, like you said, they're just putting too much emphasis on, on business. And I've done that, and I feel like I still do that, even though I have time off. My brain is just constantly swirling with stuff. Even if I appear to be present to my family, I know how to game that really, really well.
Yeah, and that's probably the bigger issue. It's not the physical time; it's the quality time. We've all heard that. And we know when someone's present in a conversation that we're in, and we know when they're not. And our kids know that and feel that too. And certainly our significant others do. So it's one thing that was great about this career, because I was the boss and it was my business. I never missed an assembly. I never missed an award. I never missed a performance. I never missed a game. I never and as disciplined as I was with my schedule and what my day looked like, those things. That's probably why I was able to not miss those things, because I was so productive the rest of the time. It didn't feel there was no guilt about taking time to go to flag salute that morning.
Yeah, that's really good. As we wrap up here, there is agents struggling even in. I mean, we're in a shifting market in most markets. There's a lot of agents struggling still, even if their money is good, their time might not be good. They may be strained in their relationships and faith or whatnot. What words of encouragement would you have for an agent or anyone that's kind of struggling, given your business background?
Yeah, so look, it's absolutely not easy, right? It's a simple business, but it's not an easy business. And if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? Everyone would be selling hundreds of homes a year, and that's just simply not the case. So there's always times where we go, wow, this is hard, this is a struggle, but that's the game we chose to play. So if we're going to play that game, then we need to figure out how to play it at our optimal level. And as the markets shift and as times get tougher for whatever reason, where my mind goes to is that's when we need to turn up the intensity and create more and have more urgency about what we do. Doesn't mean we need to work more or work harder. In some cases, that may be the case, but it means we need to be really focused and more intensity about what we're doing at the time we're doing it, which will help yield better results, and which makes the tough times go a lot easier. And that's also just remembering that no matter how bad the market gets, if we look back, I look back over the last 30 years I've been doing this, in the worst of the worst markets, that no matter what was going on in my marketplace, there were still more homes being listed every month than I could have ever dreamed of getting my hands on. There were still more sales taking place than I could ever handle. So it doesn't really matter what's happening around us. What matters is what we're doing and what we're doing with our business, because there's still, again, in the worst of times, plenty of business to be had. We just have to make sure we're the ones getting it.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Chris, I appreciate your time. This has been a pleasure for me. I'm glad it's recorded because I will personally go back and listen to it a couple of times. And I just don't think we get a chance to hear from someone that's kind of seen it all. And you just have this, a coach once told me that, everything up to the present moment, is research and development for the next chapter, the next quarter, the next year, 3, 5 years. And yeah, so that's how you're just in such a cool position to be cutting edge in the current business you're in, but to have this like 30-year legacy, and this R&D database behind you. So I know Real Estate B School, thanks to you, the podcast listeners will love this episode. So I appreciate your time, brother.
My pleasure. Always happy to help.